Ever feel like you have zero to offer to God? Like you just don't have what it takes to be a great servant of His. In fact, sometimes you're not even sure you really believe all this stuff. Well, meet Gideon. When we first meet Gideon, he is hiding in a hole because some bad guys called the Midianites are ravaging the land of Israel, and Gideon has no intention of fighting them off in any way. He just wants some bread. Gideon was threshing wheat in a wine press to keep it from the Midianites. Wait a second, wheat in a wine press. Wheat, wine, what's that all about? Well, the way I understand it, never done it, but I understand that to thresh grain, especially in those days, is you take freshly harvested grain, you'd put it in a basket, and then toss it into the air on a windy day. The lighter chaff would blow away, and the heavier grain, which you wanted to keep to bake your bread and make flour, well, that would fall down into the basket. Now, of course, you usually did this out in the open, where it was breezy. Problem is, the Midianites would watch, and if they saw little puffs of chaff, they knew somebody's got grain, and they would ride out and steal it. So Gideon is hiding in a wine press, a big hole. And if he's threshing grain down there, that means he's choking on the dust. So once in a while, his head has to poke up above the ground to gasp for air and check for bad guys. Like, any Midianites? Nope. Back down like a gopher. A few minutes later, any Midianites now? Nope. Back down. Until one time, any Midianites? And he looks up and he sees an angel sitting there, it says, under the oak tree, and watch what happens next. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." What? He's hiding in a hole. I love the way other translations try to capture this Hebrew phrase. The Lord is with you, mighty man of valor. The Lord is with you, you mighty man of fearless courage. Wait, he is hiding in a hole like a scared rabbit, covered with dust, his eyes just sort of blinking. He is a mess. And yet this angel of the Lord looks at this ancient version of Barney Fife and says, "Hello, mighty man of valor." Really, the great point of Gideon's story is this. God doesn't see you for what you are. God sees you for what you can be. Another way to put it, we see ourselves in terms of yesterday and today. God sees us in terms of tomorrow and forever. It's kind of like in the book of Acts where a man named Ananias is told by God, "Go and heal this man named Saul." And Ananias objects, "Wait a minute, Saul, that's the guy who has been persecuting Christians and approving of our torture and assassination. God, I'm not going to go heal this guy." And God says to Ananias, "Go, this is my chosen vessel who will take the gospel to kings." Throughout the Bible, God sees people with a different set of eyes than they see themselves. And so really the first question that Gideon's story here prompts me to ask is, are you listening to what God is saying to you about you? Are you hearing the voice of that angel? Okay, you may ask, okay, how does God see me? What is God saying about me? Great question. Check out these verses. He chose us in Him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in His sight. See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God. And that is what we are. You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His wonderful light. That is you. God greets you today and says, "Hello, chosen one. I have a destiny for you. You are my beloved child." Does that sound too good to be true? Well, that's probably about what it sounded like to the coward hiding in a hole who heard, "Greetings, mighty man of valor." So are you listening to what God is saying you powerful person of great courage? The second question is less obvious, but just as important. Are you speaking as God's angel spoke to Gideon? Or are you the voice of another fallen angel, the accuser? Are you speaking what God is saying to others about them? In fact, ask yourself this simple question. What sort of things am I consistently saying to others and to myself? Does it amount to, you mighty person of valor, or you weak person of probable failure? Just think about it. What are you saying to yourself? What are you saying to others? Because your words can set yourself and others up for failure or success. Your words can set your children up for failure, your church, your country, your community, your family, your marriage. Are you saying things like, I feel so sorry for you kids, this terrible world that you're growing up in. Man, the world is just going to hell in a handbasket. Nothing ever good's going to come out of Washington, D.C., ever. Churches in America are going downhill fast. You know what? Those are all self-fulfilling prophecies. Be careful what you are saying. We often forget the words of James in James 3:5. By our speech, we can ruin the world, turn harmony to chaos, throw mud on a reputation, send the whole world up in smoke and go up in smoke with it. Smoke right from the pit of hell. Wow. Here's another way to put it that ties right back into Hebrews 11. What is your meta-narrative? What is your meta-narrative? That's the way you narrate your own life. Is it something like, God has a plan for you. God will empower you. God is working in you and through you. That is language reflecting the meta-narrative of Hebrews 11. And by saying those things, you're setting yourself up in the right direction. You're setting your course. You're sensitizing yourself to observing those things around you. Or does your meta-narrative sound something more like this? This will probably never work. You're not capable. You're such a failure. If you talk to yourself and others that way, then what happens is, according to James, you're setting their course in that direction with your words. You're setting them up for failure. You're setting yourself up for failure. Don't be, the fallen angel, the voice of the accuser. Be the voice of Gideon's angel to people. I think of my own Swiss-Italian Aunt Pia. When I was about 4 years old, my father died. Our family was plunged into poverty. I was facing what even to me then seemed like a very insecure future. And I will never forget it. At least a couple of times, she took my little chin in her hands and she tilted my head up toward her and she looked at me as if she was seeing a vision. And she said, "Oh, Rene, I see such potential in you." Potential, all I wanted to do was read comic books. I see such potential in you. Oh, I am amazed when I think of how the Lord is going to work through you in your life. It's just amazing for me to think of this. And I was like, really? Is that true? There's a future for me? It set the course of my life. I'm still thinking of that and I'm 60 years old. Can you be that voice to other people? Now, I'm not saying only be positive. There is a place for negative words. I'm not saying never critique, never grieve, never lament. Lamenting, grieving, critiquing can all be very positive things in the long run. What I'm talking about is kind of indulging the worst side of your human nature. I'm talking about grumbling speech, constantly complaining speech, constantly critical speech. One of my biggest concerns about Christianity today is how Christians are reflecting our society's way of communicating. When you look at talk show hosts, celebrities, and so on, picking fights, finding fault, being critical. But Ephesians 4:29 says, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen." There are Gideons all around you today, hiding in holes, afraid of the bad guys, kind of nervously poking their heads up once in a while and looking around? Do you see them? Kind of nervously sending you an email, how's it going? Or sending you a tentative text or waving a weak hello. Will you be the voice of that angel to them? Will you help them see themselves as the mighty man or woman of valor that God created them to be? Strengthen their faith by using words that reflect the Hebrews 11 narrative, because that is going to help them and you to live faith forward.